Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Jeff Hatter. Thank you for tuning in to Yerba Travels Podcast, the place that delivers all the marvelous wonders of our beautiful world from first-hand accounts of people who live in these exotic places. After listening, head over to yerbatravels.com to find out more cool information. That's yerbatravels.com. And don't forget to subscribe and join the Yerba Travels community. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation. All right, my guest joining us today is a native of the City of Gold, better known as Johannesburg, South Africa, and his name is Pieter. Pieter,
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, it's a
I hope
pleasure.
we will have a very good and fruitful discussion here because South Africa is a very interesting country with a very rich history. So I've got a map with me, so your listeners must please be patient. If you hear all the scratches and the noises, just go for your volume button and put it down a little bit, but it won't make sense if I talk and I can't show Jeff the country as it is, where to go, what to do, and where the interesting places are. So please forgive us for that one. So Jeff, I think it's important to say I was born about 20 kilometers from Johannesburg. It is the area called Roodepoort and Krugersdorp. Krugersdorp was named after the first president of the old Transvaal Republic. Now I will maybe get to it about our history. Our history was that we were also a colony of the British, and we fought two, they call it, I call it wars of freedom, independence. It's the easiest way to describe it. Some people talk about the Anglo-British Boer War. Boer people were the Afrikaans people that lived here in the Transvaal Republic and also here in the Orange Republic of the Orange Free State. Okay. So with the first War of Freedom, we won. We were the first people except for America, defeated Britain too, but we, as a small group of people, we were not more than, I think, 20,000 people living in that in the whole of the Transvaal, and General Colley was sent by the British to actually colonize the Free State and the Transvaal. We were independent, but the British played a real colonial game where they gave them independence, but then they said you cannot negotiate overseas, as you can't handle your own foreign affairs. There was all these tricky stuff.
So it was like a faux independence.
But it sounds like a full independence, but in reality they didn't want to allow it. Mm-hmm. But it was against international law. So the British didn't abide by international law. So then the Boer people were trackers. So they started out, we will just briefly get onto it so that I can give you a good background and we can later on talk a little bit more in depth. So South Africa started out here in Cape Town. Mm-hmm. That's 1,500 kilometers from Johannesburg. So Cape Town is south, and it's on the Indian Ocean and Atlantic Ocean meets here in Cape Town, Cape Point.
Okay.
But actually, to be honest, I think it's Cape Agulhas around here is the actual mixture of the two. But, you know, if you go to Cape Town, Cape Townians will say...
that's where it is,
That's
right?
where it is,
yeah.
Yes. So, I won't argue with the Cape Townians. They've got the wine and they've got all the good stuff, and so you don't look for trouble with them. So Cape Town is over here on the southern part. It's on a peninsula, and how it happened was that the Dutch East Company was trading in what is today Indonesia, Malaysia, Java. So they had the spice route that your people came from Portugal and from the Netherlands, and then they will, with their old wooden ship, sails around the Cape of what they call Cape of Good Hope, and then they will go to Java. So Indonesia was the Java was over there.
And
So
just quickly, as you mentioned, the Cape of Good Hope. Where does that name come from?
I'll try and explain now why.
Okay.
Good. So people, they will, with their ships, then come around Cape Town, Cape of Good Hope, and then they will go up to Java. They will, I think, sometime. I don't think at that point, as I can remember history, there was a Islam or well, it's not the correct word to use. It was a Arabic a sultan was living here in the Mozambique area.
Okay.
And he was not friendly to the Westerners, so they couldn't really. It's Tanzania. It's the island just off Tanzania. So I think if they got into trouble, they couldn't really be stranded there.
Okay.
Because there was the conflict always. But I'm speaking under correction there. I stand corrected. So they would then go to Indonesia, to Java. In Java or even India, it was all about the spices.
Right.
And the cotton that they could get, the material for Europe. And the Suez Canal was not, it didn't exist in those days.
Not
it was dug
yeah.
a century or two after that. So then the stormy seas, you have the Indian Ocean and this is the Atlantic Ocean meeting. So these areas, if you can just get around what we would call the Eastern Cape, so you will go past Durban. Durban is on the east coast.
Durban.
This area. This is a warm water stream flowing down from India. And the waves here are not that dangerous. It's really not that bad. But it's the moment you get to our southern east coast that the waves start to become huge. I've heard of tankers that can be split in half.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it ever happened, but they said that it's possible. That is the waves that you can experience there. We had a normal passenger ship go down about 30 years ago in the sea because of the huge waves.
Yeah.
And as you go around to Cape of Good Hope, so the Cape of Good Hope comes from, if you can just make it around the east coast of South Africa, and you can get to Cape Town. You can get around this Cape Point area, because this is considered one of the most dangerous areas, and we are talking about sailing ships, the old ships. So modern ships don't have a problem.
Okay.
It's really, they can handle all these problems. It's only in winter time that you have huge storms due to the winds coming here from the south side, coming up and then hit Cape Town. So you have these huge waves and storms, but then it is like a situation where what I can remember, one specific incident, because my parents were visiting me in Cape Town, was that one ship was actually towing another ship that was going to India to be demolished. And then this wind and everything took the ship and drove it onshore. So they had to cut everything and then let this empty ship get ashore. So that's the kind of thing that's happening in modern days.
Wow.
Okay. So, but in the old days, there are many shipwrecks of old ships, the sail ships. I'm talking about 1652, that period ships lying around here. So if you could get to Cape of Good Hope, then you've made it, and then you can come up to Europe. So
that's where the name comes from.
Because your food and your water you have to replenish, and that was what happened that was how South Africa was founded. The East Indian Company then came and they put the guy by the name of Jan van Riebeeck as the governor in Cape Town. He was the governor of Java, and then they made him the governor here of Cape Town. The idea was for South Africa never to be a country. It was to be a post where the ships can just anchor, they can get fresh water, meat and vegetables, and carry on. But as with any government, people started to be disillusioned with their company. They started to resign, and then they said, look, we are very independent. Like Americans, we are very close. So they said, there's no way we go back to Europe. And then they started to farm. And because it was not a proper government, it was a company, there was no way that they could really force them. So you had this gradual spread of people.
So they were expanding outside of Cape Town and heading north.
And then you had conflict with people getting angry with the company, and then there's conflict, and then they move further and further and further. And in the Cape area around Cape Town, there was lots of deer animals. So it was like you could walk out of your house, shoot something, go and have it for lunch. It was
packed with animals.
Packed with animals.
Real lush.
Yeah, very lush. The original people, the indigenous people that lived then here in the Cape, Western Cape area, was the Khoisan. The Khoisan is called the original people of the world. So if you talk about how people developed, then the Khoisan people came from the lakes here in North Africa, and they gradually moved down Africa, and they were nomadic. So they were farmers, the Khoi, but the San was pure nomadic. They were hunter-gatherers, but the Khoi people had some cattle. But they would move from grazing area to grazing area. They never set up a city or a town or anything. So when the European settlers came, to them it was barren land. It was not occupied by anybody. Not a real, it was not a reality, but that was how they thought about it. Because if they moved in, the Khoi people moved out. If they moved in, the Khoi people moved out. So to them it sounded as if there's nobody living there.
So they just kept pushing them farther away.
There was no big conflict, never a big war as such. There was conflict like, small little things, but there was not a backlash from the Khoi people defending their area. But what happened was that really had a huge impact on South Africa. There was a ship coming from Java, and it had, what was the illness that destroyed also the indigenous people in America? Pox.
Smallpox?
Smallpox. So because they were not immune, the Europeans had a kind of immunity, so many Europeans died in Cape Town because of the smallpox, but it was devastating for the Khoisan people. So that really depleted their numbers. And that was not, there was not a war as such, it was this illness. They actually came to the white settlers and say, look, we are 4 tribes that are very big, but all 4 of our tribal leaders, the captains, died. Can you help us and sort this political problem out? So there was conflict, but it was also a reciprocal situation where they would trade. The Khoisan people had some sheep, so they would trade with sheep and whatever was valuable to the Khoisan people. So as I said, it was not conflict free, but it was not a huge, there was no war that you can talk of. It was like, I buy sheep from you and I cheat you, and then you feel you have to get revenge. That was more or less that whole thing, because honest people are not all over the world, and I don't say my ancestors were the most honest guys they were, so that I can never claim.
So is that kind of the story of how South Africa started?
Yes.
They started expanding from Cape Town, and they moved up and out, and then eventually up to Johannesburg, and spreading up north, correct. Right?
So now if you look at the east of the country, then the Bantu people, that is the dark-skinned people. They are tall and big, because the Khoisan and San people are small. They are really like pygmy. But if you talk about the Bantu people, they came from the north all along the east coast, and then they settled in this area on the east coast, what is known as KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape.
And that's just south of Mozambique,
that
right?
is south of Mozambique.
Mm-hmm.
So in the middle of the country, you had the Sotho people, but they were small groups. So over most of the country was actually, if you talk about agricultural land, it was barren. You can't really, even up to today, it's difficult as a farmer to make a living there. So
Really?
you had this vast open areas filled with animals, and people would take the oxen wagon and just trek. So what happened then at one point was that when the Dutch East Company was in charge of Cape Town, we were a colony of the Netherlands. But then there was a war between Britain and the Netherlands. The Dutch people lost it, and then we became a British colony. So then the British came, and they had people from India, governors moving in, and they tried to set up a state, a real country. Because at that point in time, people moved inland. There was conflict already between the Bantu and the Voortrekkers here on the Fish River, that is very far east, because now this is very lucrative agricultural area, because you had the warm water stream here, lots of rain, so that's why the people moved on the east side, because it's agricultural rich. So then there was a conflict because people will steal each other's cattle, and there would be, shenanigans going on between the groups. And also a conflict that they wanted land. But there were truces signed, land bought legally. So in South Africa, the difference is that you will find that there are many contracts in place where the Voortrekkers just didn't move in. They also negotiated, paid for land, and paid with cattle, paid with something. But there's also places where people just occupied the land, and that led to some conflict. But there was the Bantu at that time was illiterate. So there was they had German and British, what you call them, missionaries living with him. So it's not that when there was negotiations, it was they didn't understand contract and law, because the missionaries were the people that could interpret, that could help. So that makes it legitimate in that way. But then as people moved inland, there were conflict, but they settled it. There was a truce. You have the Zulu people in northern Natal, and the famous guy Shaka Zulu, he was 1820, I think, around, that he had a Difikani. So he was the black people, or the Bantu people, were not really, how can I say, savage is maybe a word for those days, not today, but for those days. They would fight each other, but they will really, it's like a showman. The spears would break, and they will just injure each other. But when Shaka took over, he really trained his impies. He gave them short spears, good shields.
He built an army.
Yeah, he let them walk on coal and fire and stuff like that. So he made them brutal.
Okay.
And then,
interesting.
He became like a Hitler. That's the closest I can come, because he made war on his own people. His groups of people, they were tribal. So you have one family living in one area, that's Zulu, and another family living in another area, and these families together would make up the Zulu kingdom. But he would then go from his family to another family, attack them and destroy them, or unite them. You have a choice. You can either join me or I'll kill you. And some of the families fled, and they fled back to Zimbabwe. So that's where the Matabele and those guys come from. So there's a flight back into it. Then you have the people here in Swaziland. They also speak Zulu, and they fled from Shaka, and they lived in Swaziland.
Okay.
And the Sotho people lived here. This is a huge mountain, so they could protect themselves from Shaka. Okay, so the voortrekkers, when they moved in, the area what is called today Durban was not occupied by anybody. They negotiated actually with the Zulus, and the Zulus says, we don't live there, take it. So they bought it, they got the papers and everything. But then the British, look, if you want to know about conflict, the South Africans, we have British people that came in 1820 to the East Coast here, East London, and today the groups are united. They are not really fighting each other, but in those days it was the Dutch and the British. They had their conflicts of culture and stuff. And because of the empire, the British sent troops to Durban so that they could attack the Zulus. The Zulus were still independent. At that point in time, Transvaal existed as an independent republic. The Orange Free State over here was a republic. It was only the Eastern Cape and Western Cape that was part of the British Empire.
Okay.
But then they sent their troops here and they tried to attack the Zulus. And President Kruger, so that's where Krugersdorp comes from, he was the president of the area where I was born. He was an old guy, only grade 4 elementary school, but he was wise and in wisdom. And then he sent the British a message and said, please don't attack the Zulu people. We have a pact in place where we promised them peace, that we will leave them alone and they will leave us alone. But you're going to disturb that, and then you're going to have a lot of conflict. So the British sent in their troops. They underestimated. Shaka was not then, he already passed away. And it was Chatswayu, I think, was then the king. And then at Rockers Drift, the British got defeated. The Zulus really destroyed them. I think of 400 men, it was 14 people left. Something, it's you can look up on Google.
Yeah.
Rockers Drift and the precise figures and stuff like that. I don't have it at hand now, but it was a huge defeat. So the British red-faced went back, recuperate themselves, and retrooped themselves, and they come back. And then, and luckily for the Zulus, they had another general in the next attack, and that general made mistakes, and then they got defeated, and that's how the British actually started there. So then in 1899 you had Cecil John Rhodes, the famous Rhodes bursaries that you hear from. He was then the Prime Minister of the Cape Colony, and you have Kimberley close to the Orange Free State. So Kimberley was, they discovered diamonds, and the British wanted the diamonds, so they came and they just annexed Kimberley, and the Free State said, okay, we don't want war with you, Britain, you are powerful. So they took that, and then here in northern Transvaal, in this area here close to the Kruger National Park, they discovered gold, the first gold. And then as people came in, prospectors and so, they discovered the big gold mine fields here in Johannesburg. So then you had this independent republic, but a lot of foreigners coming from Europe and all over.
For the gold rush.
For the gold rush.
Right.
And then eventually through the Cecil John Rhodes, they started a kind of an insurrection where, he sent troops to actually try and overthrow the government in Pretoria, but they were defeated. Close where I grew up, my house was like 2 kilometers from where they were defeated.
Goodness.
So that was, he started actually this, what was later to become the famous Anglo-Boer War, the Second Boer War. And it was not that Britain, the British government was in favor of the war. It was him and the colonial minister, the Minister of Colonies at that time. They were working together hand in hand. But the British people and the British Prime Minister was not really up to what was happening. So they set up this whole thing, and eventually what happened was that Paul Kruger, the short he was forced to declare war actually on Britain. And that the Anglo-Boer War lasted for 3 years, from 1899 to 1901. So in that war, the British some people will say the Boers were defeated. Others will say it's a stalemate, because we had a famous General Jan Smuts. He was still fighting the British in the Cape Colony, and he told them, I'm not going to surrender. I will have, this is the first guerrilla warfare in modern history. So he invented, the Boers invented the first modern guerrilla warfare. And it was that guerrilla warfare that why I can say that they will never surrender. They will, from, I would say, there were 20,000 or so Boer soldiers, but eventually Britain had to send something like 450,000 soldiers. They had to build blockhouses, they had to set up wires and stuff, and still the Boers will attack them, destroy the trains, destroy stuff. And so eventually it was, as I say, it was defeated. I would take it as a defeat, because you can carry on with such a war only for such a short time or afterwards. So it was a destruction. And that also created a lot of animosity, because the British used black people to burn down the farms of white people. There's stories of rape, of black people raping white women. There was also stories of British soldiers. So that's the history. The Boers were put in concentration camps, and of the 80,000, 26,000 women and children died, 80,000 white European people. But of, say for instance, I think there was 120,000 black people, and they were also put into concentration camps. So, and of them 44,000 died. So it was not just one population group, and that whole thing was for a long time a huge political problem in South Africa, but eventually we could unite. There's no more something like, oh, you are British, I am Dutch, and so that conflict, luckily we outlived it, we made peace with that, and people remember the history, but it's not a grudge. It's not something where people will go back and hold grudges.
Yeah.
But it's like you broke your leg and you're still limping. So you cannot really,
you can't forget about it. You move on with it.
You move on with it. Okay.
Wow,
so
that's some fascinating history.
That's a good history to go and read up. There are many books written about it. The best book but that's the first Boer War or British War, was Arthur Doyle. He wrote Sherlock Holmes, and he was in the battle. And his story is, and I'm simplifying it and making a joke about it, it was that when Colley was now killed, the general, the Boers moved up a little hill. So they attacked the British on top of the hill, and they attacked from the bottom. And eventually it was like, if the Boers were hunters, so they were good shots, they could shoot. And if a British guy looks around a rock, he would get it. Yeah. So, but Doyle would write and say this officer. No, it's my joke. It's just he didn't precisely, but it's more. You get the feeling this soldier gets the bullet through the head, but he's still pushing for go forward.
Tenacious.
Yeah, but it's a good history to read. It's there's fun in it. My mother's father was wounded in the final battle near Pretoria after Pretoria fell. The Boers in the Second World War, Boer War, they were moving up and up and up, and he fell as a 19-year-old guy, wounded, and they took him to Sri Lanka, what is today as Sri Lanka, but Ceylon, and he was then there held as a prisoner of war.
Wow. So that's an amazing history.
Yeah.
So, and it sounds like a lot of countries go through these different conflicts, and people were pushed in and out of certain places, right?
And afterwards we had, in 1914, we had a rebellion, where some of the Boers came together and they tried to overthrow the government. It was already then a republic, not a republic, it was a union. So
South Africa was a union.
So the Transvaal, Orange Free State, Eastern Cape and Western Cape became one country. So people said, look, we're fed up with the war. We lost everything. Farms were burned down. We are not for this rebellion. We want to carry on with our lives. So the rebellion was defeated, and people, look, there are so many British soldiers that actually stayed behind. They married South African women and brought their families from Britain. So people made peace. People moved on, and some people say President Kruger was wrong in making the war. So there's still, it's like why the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima. People are still fighting about, was it good, was it not? So the same battle is going on in the history of South Africa. There's no real clear right or wrong. It is history, it happened, and we move on. So, but in 1921, now the mining industry was the biggest employers now in South Africa. 1921, they were exploiting the workers, black and white.
And they're mining gold.
And mining gold.
Yeah.
So they were, what the people felt was exploiting them. And I must say, from what I read in history books, it was real exploitation. Cheap labor, didn't care about the people dying. It was, you know, that recklessness. And then you had the trade unions, and the trade unions, there was a big rebellion, or I don't know what you must call it, internal war then, in 1921 in Johannesburg, where you can still today, you can see the shots, because General Smuts was then our prime minister.
You can see the shots where?
I will tell you now.
Okay.
So he was the prime minister, and he had to clamp down on these rebels. So he sent in the military, and the mine workers were on top of the hill, Melville, no, it's another hill name, but it's where the South African Broadcasting Company has a tower, and it's up that hill. Yeah, for a moment I can't remember that hill's name now, but then they had their position there, and the soldiers were at the bottom of the hill, and as they were shooting firing up, and eventually people were killed. People were very angry with the prime minister because he killed the people, and he was defeated.
And that building's still standing today?
Yeah. No, it's part of the history. It's just
so
now,
is it protected then?
It's protected.
Okay.
It was protected. Yeah. So you can still up to today go there, and you can see that history.
Fascinating.
It's really fascinating.
Wow.
South Africa, if you just take the Anglo-Boer War as an example, and also I must say the Zulus. If I were not white, I would have been a Zulu. Because they are honest people, they are great people, they are warriors, they are people that you can trust. You can really, we grew up with him. My father grew up in Kokstad, that is in the Eastern Cape, and he could speak Zulu and Xhosa before he could even speak Afrikaans or English.
I want to interrupt really quick. How many languages are in South Africa?
11. We have 11 official languages. Yeah.
Official languages.
Official languages. But English is our business language.
Okay.
So what you have is people will go to school in my days, because that you can now you think for yourself. There was now this conflict of the Dutch people and the British, where the British tried to force the Dutch to speak English. So the Dutch people said, no, we will speak our language, but you grow up bilingual. Your best friend would be an English-speaking guy, and you will fight in the afternoon after school because you're English and I'm Afrikaans, and you know, it's the battle. And we have a huge Italian community, Greek community, Portuguese community.
Yeah.
Although now with the modern South Africa, and after the ANC took over, the Greek, Jewish, and the Italian community went back to Europe. Because look, it's another history that we can talk about.
Sure.
So, but in those days, when you lived in the eastern side of Johannesburg, it was kind of gangsterism. It was like New York kind of thing, that gangs of New York. It would be
you're from the east side, I'm from the west side.
But it would be Portuguese against Italian, Italian against the Greeks, and the Afrikaans and English guys were in the minority. They had to team up and fight the Greeks and the Italians. So, but typical children's stuff. Yeah. It's the adults would be drinking together and having a braai. Yeah, that's another thing. I'm now talking about braai. If you want to really offend in South Africans, say we are going for a barbecue. We accuse you Americans that you are destroying the meat. You have no respect for the meat, but it's a joke now. But we talk about braai.
And braai is barbecue. What barbecue. Americans call barbecue.
Barbecue, yes.
But
nowadays we also barbecue. We destroy the meat. Because the guys drink a little and forget about the meat on the fire.
So explain that a little bit. What do you mean that we destroy the meat? No, I get it. I get it.
It's just a joke.
Is braai a certain way to cook?
Yeah, it is just an open fire. But we see your barbecue as this the pot kettle kind of barbecue
with coals, like with the charcoals.
Yeah, charcoal. So in South Africa, up to when wood was plentiful, that was a forbidden. You never use that dome kind of braai. But now people say, look, you can control it better. It's not really that you destroy the meat, but that was the perception in those days. So, it's just people are clinging to their old habits, and then they are finding a way to say, you can't do this because of their perception.
So a braai is just cooking over an open fire, then, right?
Yeah, open fire.
Is it coals or is it a real?
It's real wood.
Wood and fire.
We have hardwood, what they call. It's a kind of tree that when it's now dead and really dry, then it is an ironwood. It's really tough, and it makes the most wonderful coals that you can believe. It's always glowing hot red. And that's the perfect fire for a good steak, because it's that hot fire and not a flame. So that's the thing. But nowadays it's charcoal. It is all the forbidden stuff.
Exactly.
So because wood is not that plentiful.
Right.
So it's just a joke always between. But we love the Americans. There's no problem between South Africa and the Americans. There's. But you must understand South African culture, just to give you an idea. Rugby and cricket in South Africa, it's holy. If the Western Cape team is my team, I'm loyal, and I'll for that 1.5 hour or whatever, you my enemy. You can be my best friend, but for that 1.5 hour, I will destroy you with words. I will belittle you because of your team, and afterwards we'll go for a beer. We'll make peace.
And a braai.
And a braai, yeah. I told somebody the joke the other day. The girls, Afrikaans-speaking guys, love their braai. They are really. So the English-speaking girls will say, you go to a club, and like 2 o'clock in the morning, the guy will invite you home. But he will say it's a braai. So then you will get to the house and you will think, well, something different might happen. But it's the only country where the guy said, we will braai, and we really braai. So that was a joke from an English-speaking girl that told me. She said, that is the only country where I thought this handsome guy and I would,
When you're in South Africa and someone invites you to a braai, you're going for a braai.
So that is the joke. But the whole thing about team sport is also we are in rivalry with Australia, New Zealand, and France and Britain with the rugby.
Yeah.
And then cricket, it's India, Pakistan, South Africa, Britain, and Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
So instead of going to war, taking your gun, it is war.
War on the field.
It's war on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how close people take it very seriously, and But the British, the Lions, They are the British team. When they come and visit South Africa, uh, after the game, people will meet in the bar, and it will be a joyous thing. I still have the ambassador from Britain's flag in Seoul, where we won the game.
Yeah.
And it's the tradition. He had his flag, and I said, "You surrender," and he surrendered it to me.
Oh, what a
because that's the
fantastic
tradition. That's the tradition. So
Yes.
actually, I don't have it personally. I gave it to my Hagwan owner, the private academy owner, because he got the story. And he wanted to keep it. It was for him. It was now wonderful. And the British ambassador didn't even argue. He just
He
said,
knew what was
he
up.
knew what was going. I said,
He knew what was happening.
"This is payback for colonialism," and he laughed. But that's the whole thing about South Africans. This is not good, but that is how we South Africa is a country that overcame and still overcomes hard times. The people are poor. The discrepancy, or because of apartheid that we had, you had people that was traditionally poor, but they stayed poor because the government didn't spend that much money on them. So you have this animosity in a way, but I lost my point a little bit now. I was thinking about too many things. Can you help me to get back?
Well, so I want to, let's bring it back to the braai a little bit. Let's talk about food, because we were talking about culture for a bit, and we went off. But I think it's fantastic to know that a rivalry like that, we have something similar in the States, where your football team or your baseball team, but it doesn't sound as serious as what goes on in South Africa. But culture-wise, I want to bring it back to braai, and I know that that's a huge part of the culture. What are some specific foods, whether at a braai or something else?
This is what I want to show you. Corn. So what you would have in America, the corn.
The yellow corn,
the yellow corn. We would also put that on the fire.
Yeah, we do that as well.
So we will make that. Then we will have potato salad. Potato salad would be
like a salsa. Would we call it salsa?
No. Well, that is becoming popular. The salsa became popular, but when I grew up, it would be a potato salad with the white sauce. What you call it?
Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise mixture. So that would be also condensed milk, very sweet and so forth. And then braai broodjie. That would be bread with cheese and onion and tomato. And then you would put that either in tin foil and put it on the fire, or you will just put string around it, and then you will put it on the fire
so it stays
and
together.
Roast.
And what's the name of that one more time?
A braai broodjie.
Braai,
Braai, and brood, Broodjie. Broodjie is bread. So that is the Dutch for bread. Braai broodjie. So that is what people will make and eat. That's very popular. But a braai in South Africa is just a situation where the guys would be around the fire, the women would be in the house, and the children will break down the furniture. It's a get together. It will be fun for everybody. The guys would drink their beer and the brandy and coke in South Africa. It's bourbon and coke. It's very popular.
Yeah.
So the guys would be outside talking. Women, when I grew up, not allowed around the fire, but they could get there. But it was like a men's thing. But
they were
nowadays,
kicked out of the circle.
Nowadays, it's going down the drain. So women are allowed, but people will be. It's a real party situation. And in South Africa, in Korea, people are not really invited to a house because the apartments are very small, and it used to be tradition before the apartments, but nowadays it's difficult. But in South Africa, don't be surprised that person might meet you somewhere, and they will say to you, "Come to my house for a braai." People say we are very friendly. People are really if they like you, and they will invite you. So don't be surprised. Don't think there's something bad is going to happen to you.
Good to know. Yeah,
because that is our culture. We are very open people. We are entertainers, natural entertainer. I think there's nothing. And I was even in Johannesburg. Now Johannesburg used to be a very clean city, and law and order was good there. But now with the changes in South Africa, you have this like happening in many countries. You have the inner city that is falling apart. So you have drug trades there and bad stuff happening. But before I came to Korea, I lived in Auckland Park, about 10, 12, 5 to 7 kilometers actually from the midst of town.
Okay.
So you would go somewhere, and I met, this is where I get to, is the story, is that I met this black guy. We sat there and drink a beer, and he said to me, come to Hillbrow, and so forth. But we knew each other long before, so it was not a stranger.
It wasn't, okay.
And I said to him, but what if I get killed? He says, no, man, don't be scared. And we went there. And I must say to you, we partied until 2 o'clock in the evening. And I said, well, now I can't drive home. So they
is that common to go, late into the evening?
Well, I would say it's not that common. It was just the right people at the right time. But that's how the people are. That's just
that hospitable.
Hospitable. So eventually they arranged some guy that was sober, and the guy took my car home, and they sent somebody else to pick him up. Yeah. So there's a friendliness. These people are really. You have a high crime rate. The crime rate is really getting, but it's for everybody. It is not just a black and white thing. It is people are poor. People need food, and now after COVID and with COVID, it's really getting crazy. It's really exploding.
Just about everywhere.
So we are suffering from poverty in South Africa, but it's not a place where it's dangerous. It's like the inner city. If I can think of maybe in the old days, the Bronx, when people spoke about the old day, old day, I mean 20, 30, 40, 50 years old ago, the Bronx was dangerous
with all the drugs and the gangs.
All the drugs and the gangs and stuff like that. So just to give you an idea, you will come to South Africa and you will know where the kind of Bronx are, the dangerous places, and that's inner city. Yeah. You will stay away from that. But the rest of the country, it's really a pleasure to drive around.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
When you come from any other country except for Britain, the British Airways can land in Cape Town, but all other airways must land in Johannesburg International Airport.
Okay.
So I would say if you want to visit South Africa, is to come to Johannesburg. So that's where you will start out. You have an option of taking an airplane and now fly directly to Cape Town and start your trip from Cape Town. Or stay a day or two in Johannesburg, familiarize yourself with the people, because there's enough to do. So you will stay in the Johannesburg area or Pretoria area, and there are many interesting things that you can visit from museums and many, what depends on your interest.
Now, when people come, like for me personally, when I go to these places, I really love to rent a car. I like the freedom.
But you rent it before you go, because you choose your car on Rent a Car, the website, and then you get unlimited mileage. You get your insurance, and you can then choose from different kind of vehicles that you want to afford.
Right.
So I would say you start off by renting first a normal look. We are Toyota people.
Okay.
So you rent your Toyota car if you're a family, a family car, or a SUV. A SUV, I would say, is actually your best. You are paying in dollars, so with paying in dollars would be cheap, because it's 16 rand to the dollar. Okay. So you will be able to afford an SUV. because of you have to travel, the amount of luggage that you have, things like that. An SUV just makes more sense.
And how about like the roads? Is it better to be in an SUV?
Yeah, it's better to be in an SUV on the road. Some
Yeah.
roads are perfect, but some roads have potholes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And there are many opportunities to go off-road. So South Africa have many opportunities where the beautiful places are actually off-road. So then
Most of them are.
Yeah. So then you start out from Pretoria, and you have to go east to the Kruger National Park. So if you go to the Kruger National Park, that is really wildlife over there. It's next to Mozambique, and you have all the wildlife here in the Kruger National Park. Around the Kruger National Park, you have also different farms, I can't get to the word right now, but it's farms that specializes. They are also having day trips where you can watch animals. They have camps from ultra luxurious 7-star, really 7-star, where you can actually fly in, and in Johannesburg when you land, they will come and pick you up with their own airplane and they will fly you in.
Wow.
So there's for the Bill Gates comes to South Africa. He has vacations there. How I know it was that his son broke his leg, and they flew him out to America because he didn't believe we had the good doctors, but we have excellent doctors. Okay, but it was serious. The leg was really badly broken and it needed real special treatment. So it was not just because he was Bill Gates. It was really serious. People that saw that and experienced that told us that it was really a bad break. Okay, so so people of his caliber and his money, you can get into South Africa, fly in and out without even traveling 1 kilometer, and you can live in the most luxurious game farms that you can think of. Then in the Kruger National Park, there are also very luxurious accommodation, but there are also accommodation that's really a rondavels. A rondavels is a kind of a small little house with a thatch roof. So you can live in that, and you can travel through the whole Kruger National Park. I would say you will spend about 2 days in the Kruger National Park.
Is that just driving?
It's as big as Israel.
Holy cow!
Yeah. So you can travel from, I would say, go north, drive down south. You can spend time in that area because it's in the Drakensberg. Drakensberg is Dragon Mountain, so that would be what it means. And the Dragon Mountains are real mountains. It's not like here in Korea where they call a mountain and it's a little hill.
Yeah.
We are talking about what you as Americans, I think, also call a mountain. Okay, so the Drakensberg is beautiful. So then you come down from the northern side of the Kruger National Park, go south. Then you have an option of going into Swaziland. Or you can even go into Mozambique. You can go Swaziland, Mozambique, depending on your time. Then you go south, you can go to Durban, and all those areas has a beauty of its own, because it's Kruger National Park would be savannah, kind of savannah if you in your mind.
Yes. Okay.
But as you go south, it becomes rainforest, kind of. It's trees, it's lots of rain, so it's more green, it's lush and so forth.
So the topography really changes just from the north.
No, we have from a real desert to a real rainforest.
Incredible.
So,
that's fascinating.
Now you come down and you go to Durban, and from Durban you go south, and there are little villages all along the coast with little guest houses, traditional thing. People that really speak Xhosa and English will They will be your hosts.
Say that again. They speak what?
Xhosa.
Oh my goodness.
isiXhosa. So you will have people with guest houses where they speak the local language, and they are your hosts, and it's safe. So it will be really no problem. You can then see President Mandela's house, because it's
and where is that located?
In isiXhosa, in Eastern Cape.
Eastern
so then
Cape,
you go
okay.
to East London, Port Elizabeth, and from Port Elizabeth to Cape Town is what the rainforest area. Beautiful. So you can even come to South Africa and spend your 2 weeks just in that southern part of South Africa, and it's worth the while. It's really beautiful. It is Mediterranean, but it's the weather is perfect. It is champagne. I call it champagne weather all year round about. It's never too hot, never too cold, and the rainy season I think is in late. It's late winter, early fall kind of thing, but it doesn't rain days on end.
But late winter, early fall would be different
Yeah.
than it would in the northern hemisphere, correct?
Yeah, but north of in South Africa, there's a mountain range behind this southern part.
Okay.
Behind that's summer rainfall. So Cape Town is winter rainfall. So it's a
Southern hemisphere winter you're talking about,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
But we are talking here also about rainfall is rainfall. You guys are north. Okay, so it would be your winter time is our summertime. Okay,
northern hemisphere winter is southern hemisphere summertime.
But in the middle of the country, that would be our summer rainfall. So it would be storms and real thunder, but it will rain and disappear. So
is it like a quick shower and then it's sunny again?
Yeah. We don't have tornadoes and all these bad storms that you guys suffer from, luckily. We get once in a 50 year, we will get a tornado, that whirlwind kind of thing, but it's not anyway near. We can't even, you guys will laugh at it and say, what do you
why are you running?
Why are you running? So it's really not, you can't even compare. That's what I would say. You can also go up now to Cape Town from there, and then in Cape Town, I would say if you are in a car, then it would be time to get your SUV, because in Cape Town you move up north and you go to Namibia, because it's not just South Africa. South Africa is beautiful, but you have to see Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe.
Surrounding countries.
It's the surrounding countries. That is really beautiful. Namibia is semi-desert, so it's something to experience. It's something to see. The people there are also very friendly. Before they had their independence, they were under South African administration, so you didn't need a passport. So I had this German friend that I met, and he was hitchhiking from Windhoek. Windhoek is the capital, down, and the farmer picked him up and he dropped him somewhere in nowhere. And he says he was hiking and walking next to the road, and there were not really cars, and suddenly small aircraft landed, and it was a doctor on his way to Cape Town. Guy said, "Jump, where are you going?" So he got into the aircraft. That German, he says, look, he always, before he tells people the story, he says, "You are going to call me a liar now."
Yeah, I would say so. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this guy picked him up and he took him to Cape Town. So that is a story that I wouldn't have believed it if I haven't heard it also out of this guy's mouth. But that's the people in Namibia. You can drive. The farms are huge. It must be like a Texas farm. They are huge because it's dry. You can't really farm with anything there. So if you get into trouble, you can just turn off and go to a farmhouse, and the farmer will help you. He will even give you a sheep and vegetables and say, we fix your car and get away.
That's
The
really
people are
fascinating.
very friendly.
Yeah,
very
because
friendly.
one thing I want to really show people that listen to this, all the listeners, is some of the misconceptions that people have when people talk about South Africa and so forth. As we were talking about before, all the gangs and the violence.
No,
that's what people see, and that's not
it-
true.
Look, I'm also a guy. I don't like violence and I don't like crime, but in Cape Town, the highest murder rate, actually closest in the world. It's like up to Mexico.
Wow.
It's in a colored community. It's the ex-slaves that came with the Indian Dutch company. So they settled in that specific area, and they are extremely poor, uneducated in many ways, and it's a culture that developed over a long time where they are really gangsters. So you have the same gangster violence that you would get in South America. You would get in that area, but that's a specific area. It's gangster area. You will never, even if you get lost, the police will catch you and they will get you away because the police are active in that area, and it's not on a major road. You will really have to. You will realize I'm now
made the wrong turn.
I made the wrong turn.
Yeah.
So, and long before you will be in danger. So the dangerous areas are really located in a specific, very specific area.
Yeah.
But the rest of the country, I don't say it would be crime-free. I went to New Zealand, that's supposed to be crime-free, and I saw more crime happening in front of my eyes, where the guy would full of drugs, would break into the car where everybody's watching. So it's not, as I say, I experienced there in 2 months more crime than I ever saw in South Africa.
Wow.
But the crime in South Africa, when it comes to the farming community, because that is now a different story. You have normal crime where I would live on your farm and I'm working for you and I will steal money from your
theft.
home.
Yeah.
I'm a thief. I'll steal money from
Some
your
petty
home.
theft or something.
When we grew up, look, in South Africa, we have people working in your house. Indigenous people, Bantu people working in your house in the old days. Not because it was just poor and that was the employment. So you're a farmer, you have 4 or 5 people working for you, 2 people working because you don't have electricity. So you had a coal stove, everything worked with hard labor. So you have people cleaning your house with a broom and dusting and stuff like that. So actually she brought me up. When we go to the farm, she would be my playmate. Her name was Lienkie. She was named after my mother. So she was a little bit one that would take money and sugar and stuff. And one day my uncle caught her. He was working. He says to her, "But I give you everything. You don't need to take it. You know you can come and ask me." She says, "But from whom must I steal then?" So, I don't know. It's still my niece. She told us the story, and I was like, "Oh, you're not kidding," because we know her. That would be the answer that she would give. She's an eccentric person.
Yeah.
But we played together, and I loved her to bits. It was really good. So you have that kind of thing from an attitude, but now you have also kind of guerrilla warfare, where there would be planned attacks after 1994 on the farming community. It would be people, well organized, AK-47s, cars, even getaway cars, and they will attack the farmer, and not only the farmer, it would also be his black workers, his Bantu workers.
It would be everybody.
It would be everybody. It's a really intimidating story.
Yeah.
That's
in the news now, so I think people understand.
The background there is that it was the Pan-Africanist Congress, was a political party in the liberation movement, and they had a military leader, and this leader came up with a plan that if they kill the farmers, then they can drive them off the land. Because the PIC says the land belongs to the African people, Bantu people. But they're a small fringe group with not lots of support, but unluckily old President Mugabe was a supporter and financier of them. And they found, we think, people that I spoke to, that the finance and the guns and the even training comes from Zimbabwe, where it's people loyal to old President Mugabe, and they are training the people, and they are fighting their own kind of ISIS kind of war now in South Africa. So the South African government cannot declare war against Zimbabwe or things like that. So it's I know I'm sure they know about everything, but it's how to curtail it, how to prevent it. But it's specific to the farms. It's not. So now if you go north, you go into Namibia, and you go to the Etosha Pans. The Etosha Pans is a must-see.
Etosha Pans.
Yeah, Etosha is it's really like in a desert. You are it's water holes. The first time I saw a lion at night taking down a buck was there. A guy was making a documentary, and I was with family of mine, and he set up his camera and everything there. It was a real, like a movie set, and they had this infrared camera on the water hole. And when we got there, it was this buck drinking water, and you could see how the lion was coming up and then hit him. So that was, look, I don't like it, but coming from South Africa, I think it was a British author or an American author that was very famous that wrote that you can only appreciate life in Africa if you've seen death in Africa. Death in Africa, it's because it's the crocodiles, it's the wild dog, it's the lion, it's the wild.
Yeah.
So once you've experienced that, that is Africa. That is Africa. So then from
but that's
Etosha,
beautiful as well, isn't it?
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Right.
Look, we kill animals to eat. It's not. I'm the only one going to the butcher buying animals that I don't kill. So I'm a vegan.
Right. Right.
Liar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aren't we all?
I can just feel good because I don't see them killed. But I love my meat, so yeah. Now, then you go into Botswana, and in Botswana you have the Kunene River, and it's a swamp. So from that's why I say you have to have a 4x4. You really, in South Africa, Toyota is very popular, and you have to get actually a Range Rover, or really the biggest 4x4 that you can get, the strong thing. Because Botswana, the roads are not all tarred. It's really sand. You have to dig yourself out sometimes. Okay. So if you can get, don't go alone. Make it 2 or 3 vehicles, and make sure that you have a walkie-talkie between you guys. And if you can get a satellite kind of phone where you can get help, because you're not used to the area, you can fall into sand and don't know how to dig yourself out. So when you get into that area, you want to go off-road. If you want to keep on the road, there are tar roads in Botswana, but as I say, the most beautiful places are actually off-road. Yeah. So it depends. You must decide on what you're going to do. So then you go into the swamps, and that is expensive. So you really have to pay in dollars to live, to have a vacation in the Botswana, in those swamps. But beautiful. People that have seen it said it's like the Serengeti in Kenya, Tanzania, that area. Then from there you go to Zimbabwe, and you see the Victoria Waterfalls. Victoria Waterfalls is a must-see. So one must just do your research. I haven't seen the Victoria Waterfalls. It's still on my bucket list, because in those days we were in war with Zimbabwe and Zambia, so we couldn't go there. But people say the most beautiful scene is actually from the Zambian side. So if you go to you want to see the Victoria Waterfalls, you go to then the Kariba Dam is in Zambia, and between Zambia and Zimbabwe, and there you can fish. So if you are a fisherman, they've got tiger fish.
And where is this again?
Between Zambia and Zimbabwe.
Yeah, what's the name of the?
It is it's part of the
Is it a river or a lake?
It's the Zambezi River.
Okay.
The Zambezi River. So, and they've built a dam, and it's part of that dam. So then you can go and fish, tiger fish. So that's a fish that will really put up a good fight.
Yeah.
It's not big, but they are fighters. People love to fight. Our next door neighbor used to be from Zimbabwe, and he's German background and loves fishing, built his own boats. He was a carpenter, and he would especially go to Zambia and Zimbabwe to catch the tiger fish.
Tiger fish.
Yeah, I also had family they had their own factory reach and so forth, because nowadays you need a little bit of money to, it became a real touristy thing and expensive, but it's really something to do. Then you come through Zambia, and from Zambia you just drive down to Pretoria again. You can fly out, or you can then do a tour where you go to Kimberley. Kimberley is more west. That's where the diamonds were. You can see some history there. Then you go into the Karoo. The Karoo is semi-desert, and it is, if you want to hear silence, then you have to spend time in the Karoo. They have a special grass that grows there. It's spicy, and the sheep would eat that
grass,
dry grass, and then their meat will have that automatically spiced. They call it a Karoo lamb.
The Karoo lamb.
It's registered like that. So if you go to Europe, you can buy actually Karoo lamb in a European
market or something
like that.
Huh.
So it's very famous. It's people. It's lovely. So then you can experience a Karoo lamb. You can experience that silence. And now you must just forgive me, but these big satellite dishes, where they are listening posts for satellites and for whatever life is out in space, whatever. I don't know the science behind it all, but it's a huge scientific project from Europe, where they are monitoring satellites that are already being launched and listening as a listening post.
Yeah.
So that is in the middle of the Karoo. It's near, how much, I would say, give or take 120, 200, it's now difficult to say how many kilometers it is from Cape Town northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah, it's this huge satellite dish and then smaller dishes around it. You cannot use your cell phone there. So the moment you get into that area, I think the roads also go past, but farmers, everybody, you can't even use your normal telephone line. It's just communication is out.
Oh, it's a blackout zone.
It's a blackout there.
Okay.
It's just to not interfere with those
makes sense.
Those things. So that is a huge project. So you have many scientists living in that area, and to really, as I say, really experience tranquility is to go into the Karoo. The last time I went to South Africa, I was there for 6 weeks. It was our long holiday, and I got special permission to stay longer because my passport was expiring, and it was a lot of things that I had to take care of. So Yumi said, okay, just
Lucky
come
you.
back. So it was really good fun, and I toured the country for 2 weeks. So I went from Johannesburg, Port Elizabeth, the Garden Route, Cape Town, and I came back. And in that Karoo area, there's a special, they have special projects where they endanger species. So we have a ravine hare. There's a special name for this little thing. It's look like a rabbit, and they live in the ravine side. They dug holes into the side of the ravine, and they actually their activity makes the farmland more porous that water can get into the farmland. So farmers used to see them as a pest, and they nearly extinct. And then people start to realize, but now there's something going wrong on our farm. And what's that? So then the scientists came in and they said, but you are destroying this little rabbit.
That's actually helping you.
Helping you. So farmers also started to get educated, and I must say, farmers in South Africa, to make a living in South Africa as a farmer, you have to be very clever. You have to. It's not the normal, farmer, tough guy, dumb guy. That's not the guy.
Well, it's not like that anymore.
Science.
Farmers need to be smart,
science.
period. Absolutely.
And I must say, from luckily, our farmers are natural scientists. So they would inherit the farm from family to family, but the guys are open-minded, and they bring in the scientists and they solve the problem. And even on that land where nobody would like a living, it sounds like Israel, they would put the scientists in. Scientists would come up with a plan. They will implement. Because you have leopards. Now, a leopard can be a bad thing. They can. They live in the mountains, but then there's not enough food, and they will come down and they will kill your sheep. They will kill your cattle. But it's not to eat. It's just destruction. So the farmers used to kill them. So then people say, but now the leopards are also protected. And so you have jackals. The jackals is an interesting story, I'll tell you. And then they taught the farmers how to actually handle these leopards. There's a whole science behind it. So the leopards would come down, still kill 2 or 3 sheep, but it's not a big thing. And there's also money in place that if you lose your sheep through this thing, the government will give you some.
There's protection on both sides.
Protection on both sides. So, but actually, I think it's not the government; it is an NGO, because it's huge money. The Ruperts, Johan Rupert, he's the guy from British American Tobacco, and if you walk down Fifth Avenue in New York, all those. Like Louis Vuitton or something like that. Their family owns
the store.
Yeah, the store. The company is registered in Switzerland. So it used to be South African, but they moved their headquarters to Switzerland. It's a Swiss name, and they own these luxurious brands like what is the cigarettes that was so popular?
Marlboro.
And I think Marlboro is another company, but it's those names.
I don't know too many names.
I know the smokers, so I can't remember all the names. But in any case, it's the luxurious brands, and he donates as a family.
Okay.
They would donate a lot of money for this conservation.
That's fantastic.
That's and great. They've got farms near the Kruger National Park where it's also conservation. And the Oppenheimer family, they were big in the mining industry, Anglo-American and De Beers, the diamond people. So they bought, like in Northern Cape, they bought huge farms. But I think there's a lot of diamonds also on it. So always you have to have a purpose in life when you spend your money. You have to do the good thing, and you can hide it in your pocket. No, I'm just ugly. I think they are really conservationists. They are spending a lot of money on conservation. So coming from Africa, South Africa, Africa is in your blood. I'm an African, so if you go on YouTube, on Google, and Mbeki, M-B-E-K-I, Mbeki, he was our president just after Mandela, and he wrote a piece, I am an African. So if you want to understand who we are an African, and it's in your blood. People emigrate to America and they will say, we love America. I have family in Arizona. They love Arizona because they can hike. It's close to South Africa. But they always say, I'm an African. Even people like Buffett, his son has a farm in South Africa. So you have people, the guys from Hollywood can't remember now his name. He was in Flashdance and not Flashdance. He
Kevin
flies,
Bacon?
No, he flies his own airplane. He's famous for. It's a dance movie.
John Travolta?
John Travolta. John Travolta also, he owns shares in one of the most luxurious game farms in the Eastern Cape. He comes in with his big Boeing and he lands there and he flies to America. So once Africa is in your blood, I mean, there's no big, one of them, the whole thing is with all the famous authors, they experienced Africa. And Africa is just something you have to, it's an experience. It's really an experience.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Growing up in South Africa, look, it's not a country for, we call sissy. Like,
yeah,
it's not a country, it's not a place for sissies. It's not, if you are
That's
weak,
a nice word for it.
You know, it's Africa. If you are weak, the lion is going to catch you. But it's not, I see us as people as we will destroy things just for the sake of destroying. But in Africa, the animals will only catch what they can eat. There's no destruction. There's nothing, it's only like the leopard will come into your kraal and he will kill your sheep. But that is because you are in his area. It is because you are transgressing in where he's living. So there's other factors playing there. But the normal, if you go to the Serengeti, you go to any place in Africa, the crocodiles will only kill what they can eat. The lion will only kill what they can eat. The leopard will do that. The wildest thing that you will find is actually a wild dog. Wild dogs will chase the most sick animal in the herd. And then, because they are not as strong as a lion, they are only a dog size, they will start to eat the stomach. So it's a cruel death to die. I don't know how cruel it is if one of these, it's not an anaconda, but we call them a leislang in Afrikaans, but they are a kind of anaconda type of snake, but not that big. So they would catch the small deer and they will smother it. So yeah, that is what you will see, and it will be like shocking. But a lion will, when it goes for the kill, it will grab actually the buck, it will try to break its back, then its neck, and then it will put its mouth around the back, the deer mouth and nose
to suffocate it.
It tries to kill it as quickly as possible. So that is what you will find in nature. But it's us. We do things where we are cruel, and we must not mix the two. We must not think the cruelty is in Africa. It's just in Africa, it's a hunter situation. To survive, you have to.
So you have that sort of mentality.
You have to have that.
And is that in most people?
In most people,
that come from
as I say, people are actually, you know, even in the old days before Shaka, people made war not. It was like a brotherly fight kind of thing. Yeah, some guys got killed, but it was not going in for the kill. Shaka changed it. He made it very brutal. He changed the culture through that. But if you meet people in South Africa, I mean, I can't wait. People in Korea are very friendly. The people that I meet in Korea, if I go to Sontang, the American people I meet there, the soldiers, friendly people. They are always good to you.
Right.
If they can help you with something, you can ask them and say, hey, can you? So there's a friendliness.
Yes.
But there's a super friendliness when you get to Johannesburg Airport. You land, you get off the plane, you're tired, you don't want people to give you any nonsense. You go to the Spur, that's a very famous restaurant group. You ask, because I land early morning, like 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Then I wait for my family to come and pick me up. I would go there we will all go there for breakfast. And it's the most friendly Bantu African people that will meet you. And I have a wicked sense of humor, and they like my humor. So we will sit down and we will joke with the waiter, and the food will always be of good quality, will be quick, it will be good service. you will go to where you rent your car, and the people will really go out of their way to make sure. They will even help you to check for improprieties. It's like when you rent a car and there's a little scratch, you have to pay. So they will help you go through. Sir, we haven't seen this, so just sign here that So there's an honesty among the people that I don't think, in a friendliness that is very unique. I don't say it doesn't exist in other places, but it's very unique to South Africa, where people will be very friendly. The people in Cape Town is so friendly that they won't even give you service. No, I'm joking. But the people in Cape Town, look, Johannesburg has a go culture. It's like New York. You sit down, you place your order, and you get service. It's like service expected. Okay. The rest of the country, little bit more laid back.
Laid back.
We're in Cape Town. Hey, bro, what are you doing in my restaurant? I want food. Why? Are you hungry? I mean, it's the Cape Townian people. It's a laughing stock, actually, of the country. They, December. I'm not even making it up. I was working for Sanlam, selling life insurance, doing investments, clients in Cape Town. So my holiday was planned, doing business. Over December is our big holiday time. So you will go on vacation on the 3rd of December, and you will start on like the 10th of January again. So that's a long summer holiday.
Yeah.
But I would go to Cape Town, do business, and then take a rest. But you work up to a point, and few clients there, and I had to send a very urgent fax. I went to this very posh shopping center, and there was this guy, we call it a colored community people, and he was there at the back stretching and talking on the phone. Before, cell phones was just, it was between
just coming
cell
in.
phone,
Yeah.
And he was there on the phone, and he looked at me. Hey. And later on, hey, I have got this guy, he's irritating. I put the phone down. I said, there was just another shop in the shopping center. I would have sent the facts from there. Okay, so that's a story on its own. But then I went, it was now lunchtime, just after that experience. So you can think I'm not in a good mood. And I got my calm back, and I went to a restaurant in what we call the slave quarters. So it's very upmarket area. And I just wanted to have a cup of coffee, because from there you can look at the sea and relax a little. So I was sitting there, had my cup of coffee, and then I ordered food. But it was change of waiters.
Oh, shift change.
Yeah, shift change.
Yeah.
So the person that gave me my food just disappeared, went home. The new shift was not in yet, and I was finished. So I was calling them around there, hey, I want to pay. Eventually, nobody came up to pay. I went to the till, nobody paid. So I took the slip, and I had to go. I have things to do. So I got into my car, and I actually forgot about it. But nobody contacted me. There was no police, whatever. So I could get away with it. But I thought, no, I'm not the kind of person. So I was in Gauteng now. Gauteng is now Johannesburg.
Okay.
And I found the number. And I said to this guy, are you the owner? And I told him the story. But now as the owner, he was really embarrassed, but I think a little bit used to it. I said to him, I owe you like 40 Rand. That's divided by 16, so in dollars, it's not that huge, but in South African, it's a whole meal and a coffee. So I said to him, what must I do now? I want to pay you. I'm not going to
stiff you.
Stiff you, whatever.
Run away.
Don't expect the tip. So he said to me, sir, he says, you're not the first guy phoning me about this.
Oh, no.
He says, I had huge trouble with my personnel. He says, I'm also from Gauteng. He says, but it's a personnel problem. People do not have a service culture always. So it's something, it's not Cape Town as such, but you will have this laid back service. So be warned, you are on vacation. Be patient.
Be patient.
And then he said to me, no, okay, just bring the slip next time when you are in Cape Town, and I'm telling you what, you show me the slip and I'm going to give you a meal for free. I said, but this one is already on the house. He says, I don't even know about it.
You're going to give me 2 of those?
I will give you a real one because I can assume you are angry. So it's a personnel problem. It's an attitude problem that you have. But look, it can also be that I walked into the 2 strangest situations you will ever have. Because you have, in South Africa, you have restaurants, Michelin quality. There are, if you go to Cape Town, you go to Kalk Bay. Kalk Bay is on the most southern side.
Okay.
And you will have fish and chips. I don't know if you guys really eat fish and chips, but the best fish and chips you will find in that. It's the only fish restaurant. It's on the seaside. It's near the harbour. You don't even have to ask around. If you ask, people will say to you, it's the only that restaurant in Kalk
Only
Bay.
there, okay.
Yeah, so it's in Kalk, K-A-L-A-L-K, Kalk Bay. And you can eat there, and it's in existence as long as I know. My father went to Cape Town in the 70s and it was there. I lived in Cape Town in the 90s, it was there. I went on holiday in the 2010 and it was still there.
You know, to me it's refreshing that these restaurants last for so long and their tradition.
I even asked if it lasted now in COVID. They said no, the owners, there's no problem. There's really no problem. So in South Africa, they are really, the food is great. We love our food. We really, from a family restaurant type of thing with good quality family food, but the prices are cheap. If you go on holiday in South Africa with $1, I mean, you get 16 rand to the dollar. A breakfast can cost you 40 rand.
Yeah,
so
about $3, roughly $3.
Oh,
so
very good.
But this has been a fantastic conversation.
And just the stay, when you stay, there are lots and lots and lots of what you call it, guest houses. So you don't have to stay in hotels. You can stay in Airbnbs, guest houses, and also the prices are very reasonable.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So just one last question and we'll wrap things up here.
Okay.
We were just talking about food. If I were to go to South Africa, what's the one thing that I have to get other than braai? Lamb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to a restaurant and you eat lamb. But yeah, now you asked me a question. But if I were Indian, I would say that you go and you get what we would call a cat head. Cat head. That is bread. You take out the inner for the white bread. You take that out. You put potato chips inside, and then they have a very special Indian sauce. You put that in. It's a curry sauce, and then you put the bread on top, and you eat that. So depending on what culture you come from, you will get a different answer.
Okay.
Because if I am colored, then I would immediately say to you, you have to eat biryani, or you have to eat. It's made from lamb, but in Cape Town you will find Cape colored people, and you will say to them, "What do you think? What must I eat that's traditional South African?" You will get an answer. You will meet an Afrikaans-speaking person. They will say this, and the Indian people in Natal,
something different.
They have the speciality.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. You know, talking to people.
It will be a cultural answer.
Exactly. Well, I mean, other than time, this has been a fantastic conversation, Pieter. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. I've learned so much, and hopefully the people listening have learned as well.
What I hope is that people will not be fearful to visit South Africa. The major thing is just rent the right car. Because you are going to go off-road. Don't make the mistake of renting a small thing because it's cheap.
Okay.
You are going to travel 2, 3, 4,000 kilometers. So rent something
Be
that
prepared.
will be prepared. And if you want to go off-road, make sure that you are maybe 2 families.
Have a crew.
Have a crew, 2 families, both 4x4s, and
Radio communication.
and make sure that you watch YouTube videos how to get yourself out of a sand.
Great tip.
How to get yourself, where are the dangerous water areas. You have a dry river, but suddenly it rained 20 kilometers upstream, a flash flood. So just make sure that you don't act, I don't say stupid, because I didn't grow up in the Karoo, but there are flash floods that can be dangerous, but watch the weather. So make sure that you go onto TV, use your cell phone. Oh, it rained last night in an area north of myself. Now I have to be very careful, there can be a flash flood. So that's just common sense, but common sense that we are not used to that. So go on YouTube and see, how can I be safe? Your danger is not crime. Your danger can be in nature. I would say more in nature than anything else. Get yourself into a spot where you climb a mountain and you fall and you don't have a person that can call for an ambulance, because the ambulance will come. There are people, mountain climbers, that will come and rescue you, but those teams are only effective if you have communication. So and it's a way of common sense, but the common sense that you can add to when you go onto YouTube and you Google
and learn just a little bit more.
So and you can look for dangerous places, the inner city, but you will not really end up in a city. Your guts will tell you that stay away. This doesn't look good. And then follow your guts. And nature will be more of a problem to overcome. But the beauty of South Africa and Southern Africa, it's the Southern Africa, even that desert, Namibia, Botswana, and those areas.
All right.
It's really beautiful.
Well, straight from the horse's mouth. The beauty of South Africa and the southern tip of Africa. Get out there and see it, guys. Peter, I want to thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. All right, listeners, hopefully you guys got something from this. And, I look forward to bringing more stories and hopefully having Peter on again. So thank you for turning into Yerba Travels. And this is Yerba Travels signing off.